right, give me same direction you're looking at. Hide
Hide rock and roll, man.
I'm a fucking rock star, kid.
Here we go.
You have to understand, I'm a kid. I'm in the middle of the fucking belly of the beast. Everything around me is revolving around sex, drugs, and disco.
For being 16, 17 years old, it was a good time. It was a time where you socialized, where you met people from other parts, other schools. That was something that you look forward to. Friday come around, it was like, where's the house party? Where's the hall party? Where are we gonna be going? Who's picking us up? Who's taking us? You know, what are you gonna wear? And hopefully, you know, that guy's gonna be there or that girl's gonna be there. I mean, that's how it was. That's how you look forward to seeing people.
Girl promoters major event. They don't get the credit that they deserve. Without them, it's not gonna happen. Period. Their name was on that flyer. Trust me, it was being promoted.
If you attach yourself with a girl promoter and hang around with them, it creates your image.
The thing to say, hey, I'm on this flyer for this event. You put girl groups on there, it's gonna attract the guys.
If you saw a flyer that had all these girl promoters, it attracted the guys to want to go. The fact that they also helped promote the event.
You handed a flyer to one, and then you had a group of 15 girls there.
Girl promoters played a real pivotal role in, you know, marketing these like young entrepreneurial DJs. They were turning their love and their passion of music into, you know, a business for them. For us, it was like, hey, we were learning, hey, we'll trade, we'll promote for you, you let us into the party.
Alhambra High doesn't have anybody representing them. That's when we came out with the name Sweet Desires.
The lovable ones, the nemesis sweethearts, girls in freak position. These girls supported us with the life of the party. Not only the way they promoted, how they invited people to come to the gigs.
We really wanted to be part of these house parties, and going to them was just a whole phenomenon. We got the flyers and we got our heels, and those were two of the best qualities a girl could have.
The girls, it was how they looked, what they were wearing, how they danced. You knew the ones that were just in it for the publicity of it or the man attraction of it. Our job was, it was promotion.
There were cliques, but everybody got along, you know, and everybody really respected each other.
You had the certain El Sereno girls, the Highland Park girls. Nobody ever talked about any of the other cities, and all of a sudden you started seeing girls from like Huntington Park. San Gabriel had a lot of girl promoters from what I recall.
We started hearing about other girl groups, Sweethearts, Two Fun Girls. That's when we became the lovable ones. The fashion, the cha-cha hair and stuff. We take our 501s and we have them tapered all the way in.
We created our own skinny jeans. We had our moms, our grandmothers, our sisters cutting up our pants and then re-sewing them so they could fit tight.
Can't forget this. The skin tight jeans that you had to lay down on the bed to pull up, that you made, you sold yourself and put the zippers on the bottom because no one made fashion like that. Remember 501s, they're about that wide, but we wanted them to be part of our skin.
My best friend at the time, Michelle Vasquez, her mom used to own a clothing store. We used to get things from her mom's clothing store and get the sewing machine and change them up a little bit. We had the big long scarves, we dressed in skirts, and then my eyeliner is still kind of the same, but then it used to go out here.
The longest cat eyes ever. The The longer the better, or the thicker.
The styles also came from the factory. So the factory was a clothing store in downtown LA. And what was cool about the factory and why you wanted to shop there was because there were DJs.
There was this place called, I believe it was the factory where they had the DJ in there, and all this was all European clothes.
My favorite had to be the Madonna craze. You know, the cutoff shirts, the lace tops,
orange stilettos, the mini skirts, the makeup, the hairdo, the higher it is.
Football shoulder pads, and their hair would be all up, and the makeup and stuff.
Shoulder pads and the jackets and how it drew. You had class, you had style, and I love that.
We went through so many identity crises. If you were going to the park, you were wearing jeans. If you were going to a night party, you were wearing your outfits. And the lovable ones usually would wear black skirts, red sash, white top, red shoes. There was a color. Everybody had a color. If you were doing Sunday barbecues, you were wearing your white vest. You always had to change it up because there was always another girl promoted coming up and bring on your game. Eyeliner got thicker, hair got higher, poops got bigger.
When I was going out to like the school dances or the house parties, having to wear a big jacket because my mother would be like, ¿A dónde vas? ¿Qué traes puesto abajo? And I'd be like, bye, Ma. And I would be taken off.
I think what everybody was trying to do at the time was show their own style, be part of something.
The life experience of that particular time in the 80s is amazing. But the constant was always the house party.
First house party I went to, don't even know who they were. So I could say they were a bit of an influence because I couldn't understand the concept of paying $2 to get in someone's backyard to go dancing.
I didn't get to go out officially until probably the beginning of '83. It was a little house party in El Sereno. Best time ever.
There was this one kid that got transferred from Wilson High School to South Pasadena. You know, he was from El Sereno. And we started hanging out, and he's like, hey, dude, I'm gonna take you to a party. You know, so he picked me up, him and a bunch of guys. You know, these guys traveled in a pack. You know, I wasn't, used to that. And we walk into this backyard, and dude, I had never seen anything like that. Dude, it was probably 300 people there. Full-on DJ light show, this huge speakers in this house.
A lot of house parties in El Sereno. Everybody would be passing out flyers to the next one. So we'd jump in cars, whoever car. You didn't even know some of these people you jumped in cars with.
We would cruise down these particular streets, going to Collis in El Sereno, going down Daly Street in Lincoln Heights, Brooklyn, now Cesar Chavez, but Brooklyn Street out there in East LA, where you'd always find a party.
I just remember in El Sereno, there would be 3-4 parties in one night. We would just go from party to party. So one party would get broken up, and then everybody would show up at another party. And then after all of that, everybody would either end up at Arroyo Seco Park or Elysian Park. I mean, it was a routine. It was just a routine.
6 house parties on a Friday night, all over El Sereno. Who's gonna pull the crowd?
Those 4 guys were the 4 main DJs of that era. They were the ones pretty much throwing all the big El Sereno parties. They were always on every single flyer. How, they were on every flyer for every night. I used to trip out on that. How is it that they're in DQs, but they're also over here at this club, and then they're at that club, and I'm like, which club do we go to, because where are they gonna be at? That was really cool, to experience that and be a part of that.
The girls would fall in love with them, but I'm like, they're just Danny, Joseph. They're my friends. It was no different to me.
All right, awesome foursome. How did that happen?
I don't remember exactly. It Awesome Foursome was a field trip that someone signed apparently. And the next thing I know, I'm joining this group of mad scientists who just have their own rapport with life and shit. You know, there's 3 guys who have 3 different fucking characteristics and personalities, introduced me to a lot of communities, introduced me to a lot of venues, and introduced me to a lot of people who are able to appreciate my music. You know, Joseph and Danny and Mark were already, you know, in the tornado that was this backyard boogie.
The only 4 DJs combined together in the 80s, basically. Joseph, mastermind behind everything. Joseph and I were at a party in Highland Park. We're waiting to play after this one guy named Mark Danger. And we're like, wow, everyone's here because of Mark Danger. We noticed he had a large following, a large crowd, and we're like, hey, how would you like to join this little group?
Actually, I was a follower of these guys for a period of time. Then I started my own little Rats in Danger, which was my promoting a little group.
But there wasn't a danger yet. It started
it was Rats in Danger. There was no danger yet.
Well, he was actually a group out of the Highland Park area, and we were towards Los Angeles and Alhambra.
Yeah.
So by the time we met up, we both noticed that we had a large following in different areas.
Willie joined our group, where we started hanging out with Willie because he lived across the street from Joseph. And next thing you know, he was our 4th member.
A lot of my influences were the house party DJs. You know, the Awesome Foursome showed me a different world on how big this could be.
What people didn't understand is how much it took to really get these parties together. The money, the foot patrol, meaning back then it wasn't Facebook, it wasn't Twitter. It was literally putting flyers on cars or going to other clubs, sneaking in flyers.
I'm gonna call it the most massive house party where I went on as myself, as the Wizard, was the Insane Bash in Echo Park. 4 of my friends, we called ourselves the Insane Ones, spent the night in the glass house. But let me tell you, that was one of the best promoted nights ever. Everybody had flyers inside their jackets or what have you, and we passed around flyers inside the jail in the glass house. And that word of mouth led to one of the biggest ass parties we ever had in Echo Park. Wall-to-wall people, cops could not make their way in.
My most memorable house party, I remember that party was at Gracie Rodriguez's house. And I remember her mom being home, and I thought, God, my parents would never allow anything like this. So it was kind of like, it was just such an interesting world to me because I didn't get to go out as much as some of my friends did because my parents were so strict. But when I did, I had a good time.
We had our rivals in sports in Belmont and Franklin, but when you got to house parties, everybody had the love of the same thing, the DJ. I remember going to one in the daytime when it was all the girls. It was like all girl promoters dancing in a circle, and then if someone's jam came on, they would go in the middle.
Who was louder, our circle or that circle? If their circle was loud, oh, we're gonna get louder.
From Catholic school to Alhambra High School, I met a lot of different people with different backgrounds, and they loved to dance and they loved to go to parties, and I said, oh my God, that's what I love. Therefore, I went to our first party, a house party, and I'm like, what the heck is this? And it opened my mind to a whole new life.
I just love dancing, and I knew to get into the parties, I had to pass out flyers. Going to these house parties, I met and partied with Mondo Nemesis, Renee the Wizard. These guys, there was something about them. They just had that one thing that just brought us together. For you to bring out Highland Park into your neighborhood, there was something about these 2 guys right here, Renee the Wizard and Mondo Nemesis.
His sound system was off the hook. His logo, his design work, his advertisement, the way he marketed himself was different. The headphones perched on his shoulder like if it was a parrot.
When you see Mondo, you see Renee. It's a joint effort. You see the Nighthawks, you see the Insane Ones.
Always hanging out with them. Why don't we get a little group together? These other people are getting groups together and they're helping them promote. Ours was the Sweet Naughties with that DJ group at the time. Started off as Palace, and then it ended up as Nemesis.
I wanted to get the best mixer that I knew to play, even though I could be the worst mixer. It didn't matter. I asked around, and Mando's name always kept popping up. He's smooth. One person said, close your eyes, you'd think you were listening to Pegasus. I go, what? Gabriel was a real great mixer. He goes, close your eyes, and Mando's like Gabriel Pegasus.
I remember Gracie Rodriguez was the choreographer and the captain, and she would have Mondo mix her tapes. We would be performing to mix tapes at that time.
I just knew he was a big deal. To me, he was like a celebrity, you know, so it's not like I could just go up to him and say, hey, what's up? That's how much I admired the DJs. I admired their craft. I was just so blown away I was just mesmerized by it. You know, just watching them beat match, just watching them, the way they mix, just, you know, it's the smoothness. Renee is amazing. When we talk about music, you learn. I talked to him about 10 minutes. This was like maybe 5-6 years ago. And just in that little conversation, I learned so much.
Such an amazing joy for music and wanted to share it with everyone. Incredibly talented.
He would listen to his music with if I recall, he wouldn't use a regular headset like everybody else. He'd have a one headset, and he was always different. And the guy knew what he was doing. He spun very well. And then you had also Renee Wizard. Mondo also had a system. So the guy was pretty loyal to Eddie. He wasn't, you know, going off spinning for other promoters. So that's something about him, and very business.
What I liked about Mondo is that he was different compared to all the other DJs. All the other DJs were with their pompadours, looking cute, fashionable, everything. Mondo was different.
Inspiration for seeing lighting at that level was at the Rec, and it was Mondo Nemesis.
I don't think I miss anyone more in this scene than I miss Mondo Nemesis. He made a very big impact on me as a child. On the way out, his flyers were all Third Reich oriented. You know, he literally had fucking Third Reichness and shit, you know, with the last 2 or 3 flyers I think he made and shit. I just missed him as the nice, incredible person that he was. Because he wasn't like anybody else. Don't think he ever had an ego. Don't think he even really understood what an ego was.
Speaking of Mondo, how did you guys meet? How did I meet Mondo? Let me tell you this one, man. I used to go to Logan Elementary School, Michael Park. Went to Mayberry Elementary and walked into a 4th grade class and being introduced to the class. Kids, we have a new student. This is Renee. And from the back, all you hear was, Renee, that's a girl's name. And that is Mondo Navarrete. So how did you meet Renee?
So I met Rene Caballero, aka the Wizard, before he was all that, in school. He was a new kid in school. We started hanging out at school and stuff, and you know, we weren't into DJing. 4th grade, we weren't into anything. But I remember he was, as we got older and we became really good friends, because we all lived in the same neighborhood within blocks. So when we started going out to parties, you know, hey, let's go to party, let's go party. That's how we ended up starting kind of hanging out. He became a DJ before I did. He was a DJ with some Filipino kid that we grew up with. I wasn't even into that. I was just into the music still. And I didn't get into it until I went to Maryland's for that first time. Renee was already kind of doing his thing, so it was really easy to say, okay, well, let's do things together. You know, I'll be Nemesis and you'll be the Wizard. Anyway, the house party scene was big because it was actually, like I said, house parties were the shit. You can go, you know, the line up out the door, down the block, packed all the time. And then, of course, after that, where do you go next?
We had already been talking about, you know, selling our cars and getting something different. I told my friend Danny, let's get some mini trucks. I passed by his house and there was a mini truck in his driveway. I said, fuck, he bought it, it's all right. Just started from there, and then...
You two are the originals?
We're the co-founders of New Minis. There were some guys that we knew from Marshall, Gabriel, and Edwin. There's like an original 10 or 12 guys.
Who thought of the name?
I thought of the name because I was already kind of joining another mini truck club. It was called United. But they had a mix of old trucks, new trucks,
some truck.
Just wanted to be one specific.
Yeah, I told Danny we need to have just cruise around with new trucks, and then we're messing around with the name, and then I said let's go NU, like as in new minis, just all new trucks.
Elysian Park cruising was just the thing to do, regardless of the Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. But Sunday was the day to be around.
Elysian, the only time we cruised down there is when Mondo Nemesis was doing a party at the lodge up there. The rec center? Yeah, him and the Wizard.
Hours cruising until 1, 3 o'clock in the morning, or until the police escorted us out nicely on their blowhorn. Please leave, you gotta leave or you're gonna get cited. Hey, it was the end thing to do. And after that, there was another spot to go to cruising after that. There were several spots, but Elysian Lodge was pretty much the hippest place to go cruising at.
The lodge, the first one we would go to was the one right there next to the police academy. Nemesis would have their parties there.
Yeah, at the rec.
At the rec, there you go, that's what it was called.
Yeah, it's the rec.
It was like a mini club. They had a laser show in there. And then you didn't even have to go inside. You could just hear the music outside. We just kick back in the parking lot, you know what I mean? Kick back in the parking lot. The girls were there, the cars were there, the music. You didn't really even need to go inside.
That's exactly how it was.
Bugs, mini trucks. Once the cops came and broke up that cruising area, be it Elysian Park, okay, the next call is like, oh, we're gonna go cruise El Sereno.
Royal Seco, that was my best one because my cousin lived in El Sereno and hung out there a lot.
People had boom boxes, and most people had a mixtape from somebody. Royal Seco Park, Elysian Park, those are all in our backyard. So the party's over, let's all go to this park, and now this park is happening. And it doesn't take long before, like everything else, oh shit, that's a happening place.
So Arroyo Seco Park was basically my backyard. They used to cruise from Elysian Park to Arroyo Seco and then back. So they would cruise actually on Monterey Road. People started going there at night. Friday nights, Saturday nights, even during the week, people would kind of hang out. But Friday nights and Saturday nights, I mean, it was a madhouse. And it was bumper to bumper. And then you'd have to go to the end and try to hang a U-turn and then come out. So everybody was stuck in this major traffic cruising parking lot of Arroyo Seco Park.
Stoner Park, when they got raided. When all these cars just went driving all over through the park, oh my gosh. They started putting those barricades up where we couldn't get out.
We went to Arroyo Seco to go hang out, but the gates were locked. My brother goes, I got this, jumps out of the car, goes over to the gate, breaks the lock and opens the gate. Little did we know, LAPD was holding, they had a sting going on. They waited for enough people to get in there. They came down and just boxed us in, nowhere to go.
Arroyo Seco, which I used to think at that time was far. I grew up in the Silver Lake area, so for me that was like way far. But we used to go there, and that's where you'd see all the bugs, the Suzukis, motorcycles at that time.
We jump on the motorcycles and cruise one way and then jump in another truck to go another way.
Girls would always say, can we get a ride? And of course we get a ride, and thank God back then it was safe. You go on a ride and then you come back. Now that I think about it, I was like, that was kind of crazy.
Go cruise Arroyo Seco like right out of high school or in high school, I remember what it was. There was a lot of like motorcycles, there was bugs and everything. And me and Danny were like kind of the only ones that had like kind of like lowriders. I think we're in the wrong scene. We go down to 50s, Arroyo Seco.
You guys would call it 57 Park.
57 Park.
Is that what they called it first?
That's what I've always known it. I was always known it as 57 Park.
Did you get barricaded in there?
Yeah, you would get barricaded, and then you'd get some people, start talking with each other, and then somewhere on the way out they would stop because there was one way in, one way out, and that was the end of it, dude. You were there until that person decided to move. The only ones that would get in and out was the motorcycles.
It was cruising, it was getting out, it was meeting people. But at the end of the day, I think we met so many new people at different locations that the girl promoters found, you know what? I'm meeting a lot of important other people.
You didn't hear this music that you would hear on a house party on any mainstream radio station.
We started playing some of the dance stuff from Miami, i.e. Debbie Deb, Trenier. We started playing Cover Girls. A lot of the stuff that nobody was doing. We weren't really following the rules. We were just playing the hits. We were a reflection of what was going on in the streets of Los Angeles.
AM stereo, KDAY, Los Angeles.
We did the show and we did our set. It was fantastic. One thing I took away from Greg Mack is that a lot of times DJs forget, you got to speak on a microphone. You got to be able to project yourself, your personality. Greg Mack taught me how to speak on a mic.
There was music you couldn't find. And if you didn't hang out with the DJ and they didn't have that vinyl, seeing our friends at school lunch hour dancing to the music.
KDAY, Cesar De Niro collaborated for the first time and did something incredible. Put a DJ show on the radio.
1580 K-Day.
My goal as a DJ after I started doing the house parties, the schools, and then Florentine Gardens, which I loved and hated, was I wanted to be on the radio. One of the stations that was playing actual DJs mixing live was K-Day. And I got asked to be part of probably the first set of DJs that play on the High Energy show. The best time ever because my mom and dad, bless their hearts, stayed up and recorded it. And I got Greg Mack introducing myself.
Parking lot was filled full of people every day. DJs with their crates coming up here to want to mix. Young recording artists asking to be seen by the program director or the music director. So many young guys came through here. When Dre was with the World Class Wrecking Crew, Run DMC came through here. Curtis Blow came through. Grandmaster Mel came through here. Salt and Pepper, JJ Fat, Kumo D, Anita Baker. Everybody came through here and got their imprint in the K-Day. And that's what made it fresh and unique.
Because Dre was having so much success with the Traffic Jam that the mixes that he was making, which he was selling to Steve Yano at the Rhodium, he was starting to make pretty good money. And he said, Greg, I'm kind of getting busy. I don't know if I can do the mixes every day. I was like, dude, you got to do what you got to do. I was telling rapper Kid Frost about it. He said, I got a guy. He's real good, man. You got to see him. It was Tony Gonzalez. I was watching him mix. I was like, holy. He would bend the record in half and he'd be scratching and mixing. But the thing about Tony is that he could play for every crowd. Tony G was the very first mixmaster.
The first DJs that I used to just listen to and record were the K-Day mixmasters. Tony G, Aladdin, Joe Cooley. I remember holding an antenna to try and get that AM reception in Eagle Rock and recording it. And taking my sister's cassette tape and putting a little tissue on top and recording. Think of this, there was no way to figure out what they were doing. It was like listening to a magician through the radio and how are they doing this? How are they scratching? How are they doing this? The K-Day mixmasters were huge for me.
The Mac Attack mixmasters came up because when I first got here, Uncle Jam's Army was huge. We went and saw Uncle Jam's Army at the LA Sports Arena, and you walk in and it's thousands and thousands and thousands of kids. And I'm like, is there a concert tonight? Is there a group performing? No, it was just DJs. It was the DJs from Uncle Jam's Army. You had Egyptian Lover, you had Bobcat. I'd never seen nothing like it in my life. So I tracked him down afterwards and I asked the leader at that time, Roger Clayton, and I said, hey dude, I'm trying to get some things going at K-Day and I'd love to have you guys, be a part of it. And Rogers just simply told me, and I quote, we don't need fucking radio. We're way bigger than radio. We don't need radio, period. So I was like, okay, it's gonna go down like that. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna create our own DJs.
We met Greg Mack, we met Tony G, we met the people at K-Day when we'd go in there, do our show during the week, and then they played on Saturday night. They would bring us artists. We got the Beastie Boy and Run DMC because of K-Day.
So this is kind of where it started. 1580 K-Day. Everybody always talks about it. You could hear us in Hawaii, but you couldn't hear us in Long Beach. It was the weirdest thing. But people would get creative and get up on the roof and do all kind of special antennas and da-da-da-da-da. Anyway, come on in. Let's go take a quick look. Things have changed. So when you come on in, this was sort of like the lobby. And the receptionist used to sit over here. Like I said, we got a lot of junk in here now, but the receptionist used to sit over here. This led over to a hallway that led to the sales office. And as you can see, it's not a sales office anymore. It's a bunch of transmitters. Usually we didn't get to hang out back here. This is where they made all the money. Now, if you come this way, over here was my boss's office, Jack Patterson, who was the program director. And as you can see, Jack's office, Jack will love this. Now his office is transmitters too. That was the door to Ed Kirby's office. This was the door to our conference room. This was Jack's secretary. That was pretty much it for upstairs at K-Day. But now comes the adventure to go downstairs. And this, as I remember it, because it changed a couple of times, was where the news people did their shooting. This is where I did my thing back here. My desk was over here in this corner. Had a couple of chairs over here. This was our production room where we did a lot of the commercials. The main board was right here. Back then, track lighting, oh, we were living in heaven. You have track lighting? But see, then when you get over here, this is where it gets to the good part. And this is what trips me out because all of these carts, you know, radio stations used to use these. They don't use them anymore. I mean, you got Curtis Blow, Isaac Hayes, all kinds of, all kinds of good stuff here. Let me move those so you can get a shot at that. Look at all of those different carts, man. That was the music we played at K-Day. This is real interesting. Some of you might remember I Ain't the One by Ice Cube. This is the radio version. Because Ice Cube, I had him change it up a little bit than the single version. So this one actually says K-Day in it. Classic right there, baby. That's a classic. DOC did some special IDs for K-Day. Classic stuff, baby. This was our little, hallway where everybody hang out while they're waiting to do their mix. Mix Masters was interesting because if they messed up, even 50 minutes into a 1 hour mix, they had to start all over, Back in 83, this was the main controller. This was 1580 K-Day at its rawest. A first class look, maybe your last chance to see it, of the OG 1580 K-Day.
Oh my God, I think the high school dances were probably the most fun for me. I remember K-Rock coming to DJ.
We were getting booked on many high schools, many high school parties that they were doing. One of the ones that stands out the most was Franklin High School in Highland Park, booking actual acts that no other high school was doing. They were getting Expose, the Cover Girls, Debbie Deb, Trenier. Imagine these big artists at the time, they were huge.
I seen this flyer, this big giant flyer. It's like, wait a minute. Franklin High School, okay, during the daytime, no, wow, it's a nighttime party, a nighttime event. For a high school to throw these massive events and get major recording artists was unheard of.
I started going to Franklin High School to one of the dances. I didn't understand flyers or anything like that. I think it was Tony Ballet, Electra. The system just sounded so freaking loud and deep and just clear. And just the bass, man.
Our dances were bad. Even though there was dancing going on the inside, the party was outside because you get everybody from all these neighborhoods coming in just to cruise.
There'd be lines like in clubs going outside of a high school dance. The evolution would be, well, if we're packing them in a house party, well, we gotta get a hall. Now we gotta get the Kennedy Hall, the Ukrainian Hall. Make it bigger now.
So let me introduce one flyer. So here's a flyer right here I'm going to demonstrate. New Year's Eve Spectacular 84-85 at the Casa Camino Real. And if I'm correct on this one, this is like 5 different sound systems. And these are the major players at the time providing sound systems. And we're all in one location because we're making it happen for New Year's Eve. But imagine carrying these flyers everywhere. Front of the flyer and the back of the flyer. And you, with your crews, passing them all over different clubs, different halls, businesses, your school, and just trying to get people to come into your event. Again, no Twitter, no Instagram, and this is just footwork. Putting posters, and it was crazy. 100, 200, 300,000 flyers just to have 1,000 people show up,
Hall parties in the 80s, the biggest one of all that, kind of like I keep saying, it's like a rite of passage, Casa Camino Real. Everybody that ever ended up going to a club later on in their life ended up starting off at Casa. Whether you were going there just to party and dance, or even if you were just a DJ, you wanted to get in there and get a shot, get one opportunity to be able to play on the turntables. Even though it was 18 and over, there would be a ton of 15, 16, 17-year-olds in there. But again, it was just like their graduation in the process of being able to say, hey man, I went to a club, and of course the word of mouth, wherever they were going to school at, hey, I went to the Casa and that place was packed and they were playing this music and they were playing that and the sound system was great. So it got the word of mouth, but it was just, again, like a rite of passage, somewhere you're gonna go to the next level, to go to the next step. And it was just your exposure to that scene.
Oh my gosh, the Casa, I remember the lines outside the door.
You go to the house parties and you kind of know everybody because locally, but when you went to Casa Camino Real in particular, you saw people you never saw before. That you wonder, how did they know this place? And you start talking to them, I'm going to Bell, I'm going to Lincoln, I'm going to, Sure High School, I'm Marshall. You just start like, how?
The Casa was the shit. Loved it. Loved doing parties there with the Aquaman, Cesar De Niro, the Prophecy Boys, Travel, all these great DJs. We get together and we do parties there together. And was a great event. The place was packed. I'm talking upstairs, downstairs, around the top, and we loved it. It was packed. The light would go around. The only problem is you got to watch your cars. They break into your cars if you're parked in the street, sometimes even in the parking lot.
The place I'll never forget where I saw Pegasus and Ultimate Crave together with their systems combined, not combined, but together, was at the Casa Camino Real. Wow. Wow.
Casa was a great place because it was a blending of cultures coming together from NWA, Dr. Dre, Dream Team. You know, when I look back at it, it almost feels surreal, you know, because now to see these folks where they are today, it's just, you know, it gives you chills. It's amazing. You're like, wow, I was part of that. I was part of that culture. I was there. I lived it.
The Casa Camino Real, wow. You know, very interesting. It was probably one of the largest venues that I remember DJing at consistently, because all the other venues that may have been a little bigger, actually there wasn't anything bigger. I don't remember a venue back in those days that was bigger than the Casa, because again, it had a downstairs floor and it had an upstairs. And then if it really got crazy, it really had like fucking 8 or 9 other floors and shit, you know what I'm saying? This is the beginning. This was a KDAY Mixmaster show. This was Greg Mack's show, okay? Rodney showed up. Shit, we did Egyptian Lover. We did the Fat Boys. I mean, they did the after hours party to, you know, Run DMC when they did with the Beastie Boys. We had the after hour party there. Like, you know, who didn't perform at that place? You know, whether they were a Divine was there, cut it out. Like, this place was just